Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 15th of June. We're here at last. Sorry for the lateness, folks. Few technical issues getting Joshua on, but he's got some vital information for us, so it was well worth the wait. I'm joined, as ever, by Joshua and a full squad. We've got Stevie alongside us as well. Stevie, great show yesterday, Stevie, with Stephen Purdon on. Great to have you back on.
Yeah, Stephen, listen, Stephen's a really nice guy, really top guy as well. And we need to keep on side with him if he's going to get me this part in River City. So let's get Stephen back on. It's nice freshness as well. It's nice to have somebody else on. But Derek and I were just discussing, actually, we'll get him back on and speak to him properly and make sure he gets a proper say, because I was rambling away yesterday. I'm sorry, folks. I always do it.
Shock horror.
Gibbering on about Rangers. My apologies. So let's go on with it today. It's good to have Joshua on as well. So he's always a man that we look forward to hearing, like, tactical knowledge and all that about. So maybe there's some transfer stuff in that we can discuss in amongst everything else.
Yeah, there's plenty to discuss, that's for sure. Before we do that, folks, just a bit of housekeeping. As ever, if you want to join one of our many members on the YouTube channel, now is the time to do so. We've launched that membership scheme. You get extra content every week, exclusive content as well to our members. It's £2.99 a month. Hundreds of you have already signed up, so thank you very much for doing so. You should have the option to join on the homepage of the YouTube on the desktop version. If you're on an iPhone or an Android, if you look up a YouTube help video on how to download the desktop version on your phone or Android, then you'll find loads of videos on there. So do go and sign up. It's well worth it. Hearing lots of good feedback on it. Lots of content on there. So, thank you to each and every one of you that have signed up. Quick word as well, as ever, to the top guys in the hair transplant game, Seneca Hair Restoration. If you're looking to restore some lost self-confidence, perhaps, then these are the guys to go to. All their transplants are carried out by doctors. They're multi-award-winning clinic as well. So they know what they're doing when it comes to hair transplants. So do go and check them out. Right, the big news isn't transfers. Yesterday, it came out early yesterday evening, guys. Rangers have withdrawn the B team from the Lowland League. The club confirmed its decision to pull out the youth side from the competition for next season and beyond. Of course, they have been involved in the previous two Lowland League seasons, finishing second in both campaigns. However, after the controversial SFA vote on the introduction of a conference league was axed, Rangers have subsequently pulled out of the league. There was a proposed vote on a new league at the fifth tier of Scottish football. It would include teams from the Highland and Lowland League, as well as B teams, but it was removed from the agenda on the eve of the Hampden AGM. Now, Rangers released a statement yesterday, and I'll read it out for you guys. It says, Rangers can today announce the club will not be entering a B team in the Scottish Lowland League football season 2023-24 and beyond. This follows the Scottish FA's decision to withdraw a vote on the proposed introduction of a conference league at Tier 5 in the National Football Pyramid. Firstly, Rangers would like to put on record their sincere thanks to the Lowland League for hosting a Rangers B team in the league for the past two seasons, and to the clubs for their fantastic hospitality and sporting challenges during that time. Rangers wishes each and every one of them the very best for the future. Rangers has long been a strong advocate for the introduction of B teams in professional leagues of Scottish football, with a conference league being an excellent step in that direction. Nations across Europe operate similar B team systems with strong evidence of their development of players at club and national level. Indeed, all 10 teams who contributed most to the development of players for last year's World Cup have B teams operating in national senior leagues. The desire from all at Rangers to have a B team in the professional league remains as strong as ever. Our view on B teams was also strongly supported by the Scottish FA and its CEO Ian Maxwell, who recognised the clear beneficial impact B teams have on top international sides. For 18 to 21-year-old footballers, our research and the evidence clearly shows the best path for their development is playing professional football in professional leagues. A conference league would have been a positive move towards that. It continues, as matters now stand, there is no suitable governing body-led development structure for players between 18 to 21 in Scotland. The club has, however, enjoyed positive dialogue with a number of key stakeholders in recent days, including the Scottish FA, and looks forward to continuing such discussions to map the best possible direction for the development of the country's top young players. Continues, alongside the club's participation in the Lowland League in the last 2 seasons, a challenging best v best games programme has provided our young players with matches against clubs from the highest levels of British and European competition. This has proved a success, with 10 recent academy players featuring in the Rangers first team last season. Matches with the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool are among the fixtures to have featured, and that programme will continue and indeed be enhanced alongside the club's commitments in the SPFL Trust Trophy, City of Glasgow Cup, and hopefully the UEFA Youth League, which provided an outstanding environment for our players last season. This will ensure our young players in that crucial 18 to 21 age group are given regular tests of a varied nature. And then it finally ends with Rangers remain committed to finding the most innovative and challenging environments for our young players, not only for the benefit of our club, but also for the benefit of other clubs and the Scotland national team. We look forward to continuing our positive engagement with the Scottish FA and other bodies in the drive for young player development. Quite a long-winded statement there, Joshua. So the crux of it is Rangers not happy with the fact there will be no Conference League. They have pulled out of the Lowland League as a result. Your thoughts on the matter?
That was a long take a breath, because that was a long statement to read out. But I think there's a few different sides to this. I mean, Michael Beale's spoken about it a few times in press conferences, hasn't he? That the B team, the jump from playing in the B team to the first team is so big, and obviously there's benefits to playing competitive football. I think you can tell from that statement that Rangers will be appreciative of the fact that they've been able to do that, but I don't think anyone would have expected that to be the kind of long-term solution. I don't go to every B team game, but I go to a fair few, and I think it was obvious, especially from Michael Beale's comments in a couple of press conferences kind of at the start of the year, that some other sort of resolution was needed. But and it's also clear that Rangers think that the B team model is the most successful, as they say in the statement. What is it? It's something like the top 10 teams in the World Cup, Derek, all operate with a B teams in their leagues or something along those lines. So they're obviously of a belief that this is best practice, and it's about trying to incorporate that in Scotland. Now, I think they're still hopeful. We understand they're still hopeful in the kind of medium term of reaching some sort of solution about what happens going forward. As kind of mentioned in that statement, the Conference League was what was recommended. They're an idea that did come up that was popular with some people, shall we say, and unpopular with other people. But I think that's maybe the long term. The short term is a reaction to the B team, and the medium term is what they do now. As mentioned in the piece, Rangers will look to do best versus best, still while having the City of Glasgow Cup and amongst other games against equally teams that are equal in the youth ranking, but also trying to then go, and as we saw with the UEFA Youth League last season, in which they did okay in at parts. Obviously they had that win at home, I think it was against Napoli. Played most of those games at Firhill, did relatively well in one of the games. I think it was away at Ajax as well. But, I think, as anyone will know, the 18 to 21-year-old range, you've got to mix in a lot of different things, don't you? Because there's benefits of playing first-team football or playing against people who you're playing for 3 points, and there's pressure. Then you've also got to take in the technical element as well, and what Rangers will be trying to do, and what the idea behind the Conference League was get the best possible platform for their players, but also players will go out and play for a number of different clubs. Players will play for the international team as well. You look at how many academy players from Rangers have played in the first team over the last season. I think it was 10 it featured last season, with a number: Leon King, Alex Lowry, Adam Devine having significant minutes. Obviously Nathan Patterson, the poster boy of the academy, who's been sold. So from what I understand, I think they're still hoping the kind of medium to long term that solution can be raised. Rangers very clear in that statement that they believe that B team models are best practice going forward, but it's about trying to get an environment that allows them to play the best, the standard of football they think, and in the environment that will best suit their players, which was the Conference League. And until then, there's going to be this resolution, as they say, kind of at the bottom of that statement.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Lots of comments coming in with regards to it. I sort of agree with you, Josh. I think that the level is not doesn't prepare Rangers players to play for the first team. I know Michael Beale did touch on that as a huge gulf last season when he was quizzed on it. Let's get to a few of the comments before I get your opinion, Stevie. Tam Brown says, I'll miss the B team. It meant to be able to see Rangers B team in the south of Scotland. You're queuing for a tea at Gretna, and big Zach walks past you. He was great with his time with my boys too. Good to hear. And that's some of the stories that you hear that these guys that were going to the B team, that these small grounds, these small teams, that it was pretty much like a cup final for them when the Rangers B team were turning up. John Turner, just talking about the membership scheme. That's nice comments from you, John. Morning from glorious Cheltenham. £2.99 a month, absolute bargain. Good to have your support there, John. Blue Yonder says, bring back the reserve league. I used to go to reserve games in the late 60s and early 70s. Some great talent to performing at that time. I think the reserve league, I'd be very surprised if that was to return in any way, shape or form. But I remember going to reserve games back in the 90s, and you were getting crowds of upwards of 20,000 for Rangers and Celtic games. Dean Milne says, in my opinion, the B team playing in the Lowland League doesn't seem great. We had Alex Lowry going from playing Gallifreydine to Ajax within 4 days. That's my issue with Stevie. I'm not entirely sure playing, no disrespect to teams like that, I'm not entirely sure that is beneficial for these young lads coming through. I know the Conference League has been patched at this moment in time. What is the solution, do you think?
I have a quite kind of forthright views on this, Derek. First of all, I think that for any country in Europe to not have a platform for over 18-year-old players, and that, basically development route stopping at that point, for major clubs in that country, not only Rangers, I think it's farcical. So that needs to be rectified immediately. I think Rangers are more than entitled to explore what they think's best. B team playing in the league and things like that seem to be the best option for Rangers. So I understand why the Conference League didn't go through, but I would hope that there's some sort of resolution to say, right, let's get together and at least listen to what these clubs are saying and listen to Rangers and see where they want to go from that. Now, I understand completely where everyone's coming from, and they're entitled to look after themselves by not voting it through, but so are Rangers entitled to look after themselves by exploring all the options. So I just hope that we don't get in another situation again where, Rangers are left trying to fit games in and stuff like that. So hopefully if they've got a proper plan all sorted for the young boys. Some of these competitive best B vest games were very good. Liverpool versus Rangers last year in the UEFA Conference League was exceptional viewing. Young Ben Doak at Liverpool, for example, was fantastic to see. Now, I realise he's not our player, but when you get our players going up against them, like young Zach Lovelace and stuff like that, it can only be beneficial. Aaron Lyle showed up really well in these games as well. So I'm all for that, and I would encourage, hopefully, if that does happen, for folk to get along and see it. But I'm on Rangers' side here, as you would expect. I think we should do what's best for us and explore our options, and hopefully they can get together as a kind of footballing body and with all the clubs and try, and if this hasn't worked, and there's been a bit of a kind of impasse there, then let's all get together and at least listen and try and get something that does work for everybody, because obviously the evidence is there to support that B teams in leagues are beneficial. So let's see if we can get there without it costing teams. I think that's totally fair, and I completely understand that viewpoint. So let's try and at least sit down and work out what's best for the country, because no way development should stop at that level. That's just not good enough.
Yeah, Derek, just on the, I think it's important to mention as well, you've got Michael Beale and Neil Banfield, who are two people that, Banfield's had a hugely successful coaching career and has spent a lot of time in youth development, right at the kind of cutting edge of that with Arsene Wenger and at Arsenal. And then obviously Michael Beale's kind of speciality, and he said this right at I think it was second press conference or something, when he was speaking about Alex Lowry and how he makes that step, and he was saying if there's one area of speciality he has, of course, it's youth development. So it's no secret the change that's going on, or has happened and is happening off the pitch at Ibrox. But I think you can confidently say that this decision will obviously be made with a lot of expertise behind it when you look at the people that are in the coaching staff specifically.
Yeah. Lots of interesting comments coming, differing views. John says the structures of Scottish football needs a radical overhaul. Totally agree. There are too few parties looking beyond their own self-interest. It's inhibiting any meaningful progress for Scottish football. That's a statement that could have been said for about 50 years, I think. But I don't blame clubs for looking after their own. But does it come at the detriment of the wider Scottish game? That is it. I remember interviewed a Henry McLeish a good few years ago, and he was discussing this in detail. He released an interesting paper on this about why Scotland, the national team, is lagging behind. I know Steve Clark has picked him up a little bit, but it was a very interesting chat I had with him, and a lot of interesting proposals he raised, but the SFA pretty much ignored all of them that he put towards them. But yeah, listen, I think most people would be in agreement that it needs some sort of overhaul. Just on Neil Banfield and Michael Beale, they come from, of course, England. There is derision, it's fair to say, from there's young development sides that in the Premier League that are allowed to play in the EFL Trophy, the equivalent of the SPFL Trust Trophy in Scotland. A lot of people not happy about their involvement in that cup competition, and I can see why. There isn't B teams as such in England. There is a host of other teams. Of course, it's a different kettle of fish in Scotland, of course. But this comment from Paul McTaggart says, how feasible is it to get them into League Two and be allowed to be promoted? I would say absolutely no chance, Joshua. I think that they had a hard job getting into the Lowland League as it is. Of course, no promotion from there, no chance of promotion into League Two. I can't see this happening for the feasible future.
Yeah, no, well, as mentioned, I think there is hope that there'll be some sort of resolution kind of maybe mid to long term. Certainly not going to be this season, which is why you see Rangers adopting that kind of best versus best practice alongside all the cup competitions they'll be in, because I think everyone's in general agreement that you need to get the best environment for young players to develop. Different people have different interpretations of that, maybe it's fair to say, but certainly what Rangers believe is best for their young players isn't available at the moment, and so it's about trying to work a resolution in the medium to long term, obviously after this season, when they're going to do as outlined, the best versus best and the cup competitions, which obviously they played in last season.
Listen, is there an argument to be made as well, Stevie? I know there's a comment that came in a wee while ago. I can't find it for the life of me, but it suggested that the Lowland League is perhaps stunted the developmental growth, shall we say, of the likes of Zach Lovelace and what have you. Do you think by playing, as you say, these glamour games, if you like, against the likes of Liverpool, Manchester United, that might be more beneficial than playing teams in the Lowland League?
It's a difficult question to answer with any certainty, isn't it? Because what we do know is the Lowland League provides them with a platform where they can, play against men and have, proper competitive fixtures. But in the same token, you put them in the Lowland League and you subject, the players to potential challenges like Alex Lowry had last season. So it's difficult to strike a balance. It's probably impossible to answer that with any certainty. Like, I can't be sure that it's either stunted them or it's grown them. But what I would say is Alex Lowry, in my opinion, from where he started before Rangers started the Lowland League and to where he is now, he's came a very long way because of his being subjected to that kind of level of first team football. Now, it might not be a great level or whatever people would say. I understand that, but it is at least competitive. So I get the fact that there might be two sides to the argument there. So I think it's kind of like a difficult one to ask, Derek, because, without 2 years of Lowland League and playing these best be best, he might be higher or he might not be as high. It's impossible to judge, really.
Yeah. Listen, Rangers, I'm sure, will be organising a set of fixtures next season for those young lads, and it'll be interesting to see how they do get on. But yeah, the big news yesterday, folks, is that Rangers have pulled out of the Lowland League for next season and beyond. Right, let's talk transfers, because that's where the excitement is now. Joshua, you've done a scout report done pretty well on the website yesterday on Sam Lammers. We believe that move is imminent. There was speculation he was undergoing his medical yesterday. We believe that may be today, Stevie, perhaps. There is a medical taking place at some point in the imminent future, and we expect him to put pen to paper on a 4-year deal. Joshua, you've done a big scouting report. We talked a bit at length about Sam Lammers on Tuesday. I can see still he's causing a bit of a debate on social media, folk not happy with his goal-scoring record of late. But this is someone, of course, with a big outlay. Rangers spending a lot of money on. He has to hit the ground running as soon as he comes in.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because the scout report obviously went out yesterday. You can read that on the website. There's going to be a members video going out about it sometime later in the week. Stevie's also written about it on the website this morning, some of his thoughts on the move. I think, speaking generally, there's, of course, it's okay, of course, you should, I think, question when someone's coming to the club and you've not had a lot of goals and this player has scored not many goals. That, it doesn't really corroborate, does it? But what the scout report tries to look at is, okay, well, why is Michael Biele interested in him? Why is he so keen to spend this type of money on him? Tries to look at his qualities and what he's good at, maybe where he could fit in. With obviously some kind of critiques as well. I'll look at kind of his finishing, and in that 18-19 season, we've got graphs in there, stats, shot maps as well. But I just think that and Stevie kind of says this as well, context is so important when you're signing a player. And I think what Biele's obviously trying to do is he's trying to, and similar with Cantwell, and kind of mentioned this point earlier in the week, but I think there were similar questions about Cantwell because he hadn't done it in 2 seasons, really, when he was coming up to the club. Could he then click into gear and really be the player to kickstart Michael Biele's, or be the face of Michael Biele's Rangers? I think there's a couple of points in that. Firstly, you see, and again, Stevie mentions this in his piece, you see the emphasis that Biele has put on going to meet players and kind of testing the character as well as the quality. I think that's interesting, and I don't imagine that every single manager is doing that individually for every single player, in the way that Biele has repeatedly spoken about. But also, Rangers aren't going to get Todd Cantwell when he's flying in the Premier League and there's talks of X million to get services. Equally, Rangers aren't going to get Sam Lammers when he's back at PSV after that really promising loan spell in the Eredivisie. They're not going to get him when Atalanta pay around 10 million euros for him. I think it was 9 million up front with a couple of million in add-ons. So it is about trying to be opportunistic. So definitely there's questions. Remains to be seen if he's going to place one in the front 2, if he'll play just off it. But I think if you're looking at raw technical quality and what he's got, it's not going to be a question of talent. It's going to be, can he kind of match those numbers he has done before, and does he have the character to come and succeed at Ibrox? And given the emphasis that Biele's put on that so far, you'd imagine that in his point of view, he certainly does.
Yeah, in your piece, Stevie, it was well written this morning. Do go check it out, folks, on the website. I think Michael Biele's earned the right, but with this one. Doesn't mean you'll be scrutinised if it doesn't work out. If you want to find out a bit more about him as well, folks, I did an interview with a Frankfurt podcaster who said he's got all the talent in the world, but he just struggled with confidence when he was there. And I think that manifested at the likes of Empoli and Sampdoria, where he was as well. He just looks like a boy that needs an arm around him, Stevie.
Yeah, he does. Look, I think I talked about this morning about trust and and about how do you give that trust to kind of relax and let Michael Biele go and do his thing, and spoke a wee bit about that. And ultimately, we spoke about this the other day as well, Derek, so it's slightly repeating myself, but in order to earn trust as a manager, you need to win the big games. You need to go and deliver trophies and deliver those wins. I think that's obvious. Then people relax and they let you go and do your thing, and you get more confidence with that. But Michael Biele hasn't had that opportunity because he pretty much come into a broken squad. There was very little, forward line wise, and very little he could do with the team other than hope that they pulled it off. But as I point out, I think that there's enough in these games, even the games at Hampden, where, open goal misses and defending at Parkhead. He can't legislate for those moments. But we can look at it objectively and say, right, it's not been good enough because we haven't got the results, but perhaps there's enough that we can be confident. Couple that with the arrivals in January and previous arrivals that Michael Beale's identified. I don't think it's a secret that he was really heavily involved in Calvin Bassey's, arrival at Rangers and spotting him in that under-21 game, under-23 game, whatever it was at the time. And then, Joe Aribo as well. So there's been real indicators here that Michael Beale knows what he's doing. And ultimately, Derek, and this may shock, a lot of people, I think there's just maybe a hint that Michael Beale knows more about football than we do when it comes to identifying players and who he wants to go and sign. So it's a wee bit of blind faith. I completely get it 100%. But at the same time, I think that stats don't always tell every single story. Like, for example, Ryan Kent during the 55 seasons and when he was very important, and even to a degree the season before last, when he's creating chances, getting 20-odd assists and things a year, he's only scoring 2 or 3 goals, and people are criticising that, but they're not seeing the other side of it, and they're not seeing that he gets doubled up on in every game, and the stats don't always tell every story. They give us an indicator, but they don't always tell everything. So I understand completely why people are perhaps a bit cautious and a bit worried about this, but we have to give this lad a chance.
Yeah,
it's imperative that we don't write him off. It's imperative that we welcome him in, give him an opportunity, and if he doesn't hit the ground running, don't be quick to go on social media or in the stadium venting your frustrations at it, because he needs time to settle in, and we have to just simply trust that Bill has identified him for those reasons and see where it takes us. But he's here, albeit minus any last-minute disasters or, any last-minute issues. He'll be a Rangers player later on today. So
yeah,
I'm excited about it because it's a lot of money. He looks like he might be a technical player. Joshua does a great scout, and this is a great bit to bring in Joshua, actually, and tell us a bit about what we're going to get, because Joshua's done an amazing piece on it. But I just think that, I just really want people not to write him off, just to give him an opportunity. I understand, look, we can all have a laugh about it on social media, and I understand all that. But when this boy pulls on the jersey, let's get behind him and give him an opportunity.
Yeah, just on that, Derek, I think it's also important to note that what there is reservations justifiably that, what do Rangers need? They need a player who is kind of going to be a killer in the box and is going to finish games for them that they've not managed to so far. And you look at Lammers and Desser's numbers and you think, can that translate? And ultimately, as Stevie says, we don't really know because they've also been playing in stronger leagues.
Poor sides.
Poor side. Yeah, and you look at their last 2 seasons. Admittedly, Lammers was longer ago in the Eredivisie, and they both had good goal scoring returns per 90. I think it was kind of 1 and 2 for Lammers, and a little bit better than that for Dessers, although he was coming off the bench a lot at points for Feyenoord. The thing that sticks out to Lammers is Rangers need players who are going to be good in tight spaces, and I think Lammers is kind of at his best. Not when he's isolated necessarily all the time out wide and driving into the box, although I think he can do that, and you look at his goals and he's very two-footed. The way he receives the ball, and this is a bit of a niche thing to focus on, but I use the phrase custom-made Michael Beale player. The reason being that that's the type of player that comes to my mind when I think of the type of football that Michael Beale wants to play, because he outplays 1v1, he's flexible, fluid, can do things in different ways, hybrid because he can receive the ball, prefers to receive the ball, I think, than running behind, but he can do that as well. And just very good when he's under pressure with the ball. And if he is, when he plays in Scotland, a lot of the task is trying to move the opposition, to move the ball, to move the opposition, to create space. And I think he definitely has the kind of technical qualities. There's no question about that. By far and away good enough to kind of come in and dominate in that respect for Rangers. Very two-footed as well, which, again, it's interesting because Dujon Sterling's the same. You look at all these players that Beale's gone for, is linked with, and they all have similar profiles in the sense that they're not just not a player that you can necessarily pigeonhole. And I think that's a good thing, because what we've seen with Beale's football so far is I think that keeps it unpredictable, and it means that, as Stevie's saying with Ryan Kent, I think under Gio you could very easily double up on him if you're an opposition manager. And there's strengths and weaknesses to every system, because you look at Pep's Man City, you know what they're going to do, but it's a different thing stopping them. But I think domestically for Biele, he's creating a team that can provide different solutions in game, and that is fluid and kind of can I guess it's hard to plan to play for, because you don't know exactly where a certain player is going to pick the ball up. A player like Lammers, you don't know which side he's going to pick the ball up on, and these are all small details, but ultimately I guess it's those small details that win games. So I think if it works, he's got such a high technical ceiling. As Stevie said, it's a risk, but you've got to, I guess, bank on the fact that Michael Biele knows his success will depend on the success of this window. He knows he needs players to come in who he can count on, and he obviously thinks that Lammers is going to be able to do that for him.
Yeah. Just a point I wanted to say as well is, see, when we talk about him being a confidence player and stuff like that, I've yet to hear any player say anything negative about Michael Biele other than he's a brilliant man manager and he knows exactly what he's doing, knows how to treat players. Look at what Jack Butland said. Let's just deviate slightly and talk about Jack Butland. Jack Butland is given a massive contract opportunity to stay at his boyhood heroes in Manchester United, but he has one visit from Michael Biele and he's sold. He talks about Michael Biele giving the presentation bells and whistles, and that's him. It's done. So I'm not too worried, and I think we should have some confidence that if anyone's capable of getting the best out of players, and even look at last season when he came in and the state that squad was in and how he managed to rejuvenate certain players like Fashion Sakala, for example. He didn't manage it with Alfredo or arguably Ryan Kent, but their situation had perhaps went too far. But he certainly stabilised the club and stabilised the players and got better form out of them. I think we just have to simply have enough trust in Biele that he knows what he's doing. So I'm not too concerned about that. If he needs an arm around his shoulder and stuff like that, he'll get it. And there's enough there, enough experience in this management team as well to know what to do. I think it's an exciting one. We're paying a lot of money for this, boys. So, rather than, I remember, Derek, just a few years ago, we weren't signing guys like this. So we went to Serie A. We've got a player that, as Joshua rightly pointed out, was the guts of, 9 million euros just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So
obviously it's something about him. Let's just try and unlock it and see where it takes him. And for the statisticians out there, hopefully I said that word right, Todd Cantwell hadn't scored in 2 years before he rocked up, and look at how he's performing now. So welcome to Rangers, Sam Lammers. Let's get behind the lad and hopefully he does the business. Another tall guy as well, Derek, 6 foot odd.
Yeah, physical guy, isn't he? Yeah.
I'm going to need to get a wee bucket or something to stand on next season to interview.
A Bielsa bucket.
It's going to be like that, So they're all big guys, and 4 in so far, and all above 6 foot. That's really interesting for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that he's going to be robust and kind of strong and a bully type player. I don't think Joshua is that type of player. But
no, he's going to be able to give you a focal point, but he's a technician more than he's as you say, kind of battering ram. But Stevie's right. I mean, you look at the players that are in, you look at the players that we know Rangers are interested in. Someone like Sefuentes as well, who's not 6'2", but he's a really physical player in his own right. I think it just speaks to where football's going, and I think it speaks to, you look at the 2021 window. We've referenced this before when Biele were part of the team that brought Lundstrom and Sakala in, to maybe not to the best technicians in the squad, but to take the physical profile of the team up, because they knew that in Europe they needed to change what they did to kind of match the teams they played there. So definitely building a team that's going to dominate physically, I think, hopefully, as well as technically.
Yeah. And listen, I think his hair is pretty cool as well, isn't it? Like big wavy curly hair and all that. So
you jealous?
You know what I mean? No, but we might get a wee headband. Like we could maybe get sponsorship for Cantwell and him. You know what I mean? And a wee ribbon and stuff like that. I'm happily, I'll wear one. You know what I mean? But it's not exactly holding much back. But you know what I mean? All joking aside, let's give him an opportunity. Let's welcome him in. Let's see what he's like. At least give him 10 minutes before we start moaning about it. I'll give him 15 maybe. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's generous, Stevie.
Before I'm telling Joshua on the gantry, like, what have we done here or whatever, or he's going to be a world beater. But let's just, it's a big arrival for us. Let's enjoy it. Welcome the lad and give him an opportunity. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, totally agree. Kev says, Stevie on a bucket like Ur Willie. What a comic that was. Have you ever read Ur Willie, Joshua? Is that before you?
No, I'm not that old. Used to have them when we were younger, so I get that cultural. Don't get many cultural references, but I get that one.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Just on Michael Buell, like you said, Stevie, Adam, something that sticks out in my mind when you talked about his coaching there. I was down at Portman Road at the start of last season for Ipswich were taking on Bolton, and George Edmondson was the featured player in the programme, and he says Michael Buell was by far and away the best coach he's ever worked with in his career. And that was interesting. That really stood out to me. And of course, that was before he joined Rangers. So you hear these players that have even left Rangers speaking so highly of Michael Biele. I think his reputation as a man, as a coach and player development is second to none. And that's, I think, why we're seeing, well, you hear guys like Cantwell and Raskin saying that he was pivotal in them coming to the club. So I don't think we should overlook his coaching ability in terms of these arrivals that are coming to Ibrox. We'll just, before we wrap up, we want to talk about the Rangers fan engagement, but there's a couple of interesting comments just on Lammers. Sky Larker says, it'll be good to hear Beale's vision for Lammers. He's clearly a good footballer, hard to look past his stats, but he seems to have some great attributes. Denzel says, just tying in with what we were saying as well, I wouldn't criticise Beale's choice of player. He knows so much more than I do about football, but it's a high-stakes game. If these new strikers don't score, they'll need to score sharpish because, of course, we've got the Champions League qualifiers just around the corner as well. Right, before we wrap up, lads, of course, other news yesterday, Rangers announcing their engagement, their supporter engagement strategy. This is a new sort of plan to involve the supporters more with what's going on behind the scenes at the club. So there is going to be, of course, James Bisgrove will be the new chief executive. He will be starting next month. He says a quarterly event where it'll be a quarterly fans forum where supporters can join James and other senior club officials for a live Q&A session. You'll be able to ask questions, raise concerns, or give feedback on any aspect of the club. There will be a fan advisory board where there'll be a representative group of fans who'll meet with James Bisgrove, board members and senior management on a quarterly basis, and they'll act as a voice for the wider fan base and advises on strategic matters and fan issues. There'll be engagement working groups as well, which will be small groups of fans who will work with Rangers on specific topics or projects that are relevant to fan engagement and driven by the FAB. They will provide input, feedback and suggestions on how to improve the Rangers fan experience and services. There will also be supporter collaboration sessions, informal and interactive sessions where fans can meet with other fans and club staff to discuss relevant topics. These will be held in Edmonston House and will allow a wider range of supporters than ever before to get involved with supporter engagement. And finally, there'll be supporter group meetings where Rangers will regularly meet with representatives of various supporters groups, including the RSA, representatives of the Northern Irish Travelling Supporters, the Union Bears, the North American Rangers Supporters Association, and the Oceanic Rangers Supporters Association, and many more. The club say they'll continue to meet with supporter group representatives as we expand our supporter engagement. I'd like to get your view on that, Stevie, of course, from the fans blog. You write for Four Lads Had a Dream. This is a good step in the right direction, is it not?
Yeah, it's a fantastic step in the right direction. I think everybody knows that I've been quite outspoken the last 18 months, particularly on the regime that's just left, the fact that there's no fan engagement and they weren't, listening and they weren't talking to the support. I'm not going to start ripping into people, but I've made it quite clear on a number of meetings with the club and that we need to be more forward-facing. And I think Joshua's even heard me sort of speak on that at these sort of things. So I don't expect Rangers Football Club to sit down and say, right, season ticket holders, we've got 15 million to spend this summer. Our 6 targets are Sam Lammers, Jack Butland, etc. That's not the kind of interaction we want. But having a customer service department like David Milburn, like he is now, being completely open, willing to discuss and meet with fans, willing to give interviews like he has. David's been a breath of fresh air. So that kind of, employee at Rangers, guys like Josh Hollywood in commercial, we spoke about him before. These are new guys that have Guy McCallum. You've got good young lads there that have all now came in and are doing good jobs and are wanting to kind of speak with the fans. I think that James Bisgrove has listened to a lot of things that not only I've said, but other people have said to him, and he seems to want that engagement. So I think it's a brilliant step. I think that the things that they put in place is very forward thinking and open, and that's all you really ask. I don't expect the club, to share their secrets and stuff like that. They should work as a business. I get it, but be more open, involve the fans, and have that level. There was a real situation there, Derek, for a long time, under maybe others that have left now, that Rangers were treating their supporters like customers, and that's not right. And whilst I'm involved in fan media and things like that, I'm not an activist or anything, but I'll certainly make my position clear to the club that we need to be treated as equal as part of things, because ultimately we are the lifeblood of Rangers. So involve us as much as you can. That's all I'm asking. Don't expect to be sitting in boardroom meetings and stuff like that. That's not it. But I think now we have got people in that recognise the value of the supporters and are willing to do it. So congratulations to the club. I think it's a really forward-thinking thing, and I'm really positive and hopeful of where it will take me, where it will take us as a support, and what's going to happen, in these kind of engagements. So there's a lot, I think, to be positive about under the kind of plans and things. So well done to Craig Marshall, the SLO. He's taken a lot of stick, Derek, but it's impossible to do a job if you're not being allowed to do it. So I think Greg, hopefully we'll see a lot more of him being visible and allowed to speak to the support and stuff like that. So let's see where it takes us. But I'm all for it. So well done, to the club, and hopefully it works out for the best. That's all we ask. Try and involve us.
I think just to add on that, I'm sure that as Stevie says, there will be a lot of points of criticism this season, as there is going to be in any season, probably at Rangers. But if you give supporters a dialogue where, and that kind of comes through in the document, I think, whereby there is a channel for them to be listened to, then that will make a big difference. And the kind of quarterly meeting that you're referencing probably epitomises that. So I think you can see that Bisgrove and Bennett, what they've done very well is they've presented themselves as the new. They've changed a lot of things already, and what that does is that gives them an opportunity to go and be successful. Obviously, it's now up to them to kind of deliver that. But I think you have to, as Stevie says, you have to commend the strategy to put things right. And I'm sure when a difficult few results have come, that there'll be difficult questions asked at these types of things, but they're going to happen regardless. So I think if there's a forum for that to happen, that's probably the best case scenario for everyone.
I think the best thing is, Joshua, I think the fact that they've actually listened. It's very evident that James Bisgrove has listened. He doesn't always agree with everything, but that's healthy, because as CEO, he should have his own vision and things like that. But John Bennett, as a supporter of the club, his daughter and his son are supporters of the club, so he understands where we kind of sit and where we come from. So I think that's clear. I think we all wanted change. It's here. So I talk about it a lot, about embracing it. Well, these guys have kind of shown us, or at least given us a wee insight and wee opportunities. Things like, they've come in immediately, and now we're looking at Rangers having safe standing, where previously that was going absolutely nowhere. So, these are things that they're at least having a look at, and they're doing, they're having the Newcastle United testimonial, where the Union Bears and things in the Copeland Collective, Broomland Collective, are going to be in the Copeland front. These are all really positive things that we've asked for, and they've immediately come in and implemented them. So, let's embrace it and allow, and look forward to what they're trying to do. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. We've asked for change. It's here. It's happening. And it is, for me, really positive. So I'm really happy that the club have listened.
Yeah, nice wee comment here from Kev, singing your praises, Stevie. He says, Stevie had a wonderful interview with the customer service manager a few weeks back. This is another step in the right direction.
There'll be more like that. There's more like that coming. I'm in constant kind of dialogue with David Milburn at the club, with Greg Marshall, with Nick Thompson, who's the new communications director, or head of communications rather, James Bisgrove. All these guys are really receptive to ideas about who next to interview, so that they can give the fans information. So that's all in the pipeline more, and you'll hear of that on the fan media platforms, not only Four Lads, but here on Rangers Review. And and, you know, Heart and Hand and things like that. So we all work together to make sure the information's out there for the supporters. So what I would say, you know, if there's areas and things you want to hear from us, then let us know and we can try and make that happen. But there is more in the pipeline, and the club are very receptive to those ideas. So hopefully we'll get that soon.
Superb. Watch this space then, folks. Right, well, I think we'll wrap up there. Just a quick heads up to our YouTube members. There will be a show later this afternoon with our transfer guru, Chris Jack. He'll give us the latest on the incomings and potential outgoings at Ibrox. He is a man in the know. So if you've not signed up to become a member, now is the time to do so. Just click on the join button on the homepage to sign up. Stevie, you're laughing away there. What's going down in the Clifford household?
It's no Chris Romano, is it? It's not. Like, I mean, see, when you get an article saying that about Chris, then you can go. But no, that'll be a good show. Listen, I've just on Chris. Like, Chris and I obviously used to do the podcast together, and we work quite closely together. Chris is fantastic with. We got the scoop on Sam Lammers last week. Immediately able to get answers about Dave King. You know, Chris is really on the pulse when it comes to Rangers, and a really nice top lad as well. So that'll be a great show. I'd encourage everybody to go and look at. But I am laughing though. Transfer Guru. Wait till he hears that, because I was telling him about that article last night when it talked about me. So he's going to be right on at me this morning with the Transfer Guru stuff. So that's quite fun.
Yeah, he's a top lad, Chris. Do go and check it out this afternoon, folks. If you are remember just £2.99 a month. You won't be disappointed. Big thanks to Joshua and to Stevie as ever. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk all things Rangers, and perhaps we may be talking about a new signing. Hopefully you can join us then. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.